Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Jennifer Porter. And her story is featured, one of many, featured in When God Happens, True Stories of Modern Day Miracles. So Jen, as a teen, had gotten herself into a very scary predicament out of state with strangers. There's some real unusual activity going on. And you were looking for a way out and found that the whole area was being guarded by guys. What happened next, Jen?
I saw a man or a car pull into the driveway. Well, right before that, I started looking for vehicles. I thought, even if I could just get a bicycle, I could return it. But I needed to get out of there, and there were no vehicles. All those people, there was nothing. Not a car, not a dirt bike, nothing. And that struck me as
So you wonder how they got
How'd
there.
they all get there? Were they all brought there like I was?
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw this car pull into the driveway, and I went flying across the grass, and I started pounding on the window, and I said, I've got to get back to Holiday Camplands. If I'm not back by midnight, my mom is going to knock me through a wall and paint over me. I got to get home. I was as afraid of her, and not getting home and her having to come and find me as I was these people. And I didn't know how bad they were yet. I had no idea. And he said, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Or something along those lines. And then behind me, this guy said, you're not going anywhere. And I turned around, and there was a row of kids lit up by the car's headlights. And he said, you're not going anywhere. And I said, you don't understand. No. I'm leaving. No, I'm not staying here. And I'm looking at him, and it was like his face just morphed. And I thought, maybe I did get drugs. Maybe they did give me something. And when I stepped back, because what the heck just happened to this guy's face?
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and he backed up. And then the whole row backed up. And then I turned around, I'm thinking, did the cops arrive? What happened? And the guy in the car was terrified. The look of terror on their faces.
The guy in the car was terrified?
Yeah, when I turned around,
yes,
everybody was just petrified.
Yes.
And this man in the middle, I found out that he was a high satanic priest, said, let her go. She belongs to him. And I didn't know who him was, but if they were going to let me go, I was leaving.
Let her go. She belongs to him.
And
referring back to when you were 9 years old and accepted Jesus into your heart.
Yes. I didn't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to leave, and I turned to my friend and I said, come with me. These are bad people. Buddy system. Don't leave your buddy behind. And she said, I knew you were a goody two-shoes. I knew I'm going to stay here with my real friends. And I said, okay. And I got in the car, and it occurred to me that I might never make it back.
Who was driving the car?
The man that I had said that
his face morphed.
No, that was the guy in the middle. His name was Jamie. I remember that. No, the man that when I pounded on the window, he said he wasn't leaving. I was out of luck. Yeah.
And yet he drove you. He drove
me back to the lot. He took me back to. I thought they dropped me off at the front.
Yes.
He took me all the way to my lot, and I was just so frightened, and our camper was dark, and I thought, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
And started looking for my mom. She was across the street, and we have friends that were there, and the woman there, Mary, she told me about Jesus all the time.
Yeah.
And they had a bonfire going, and I got there, and she wrapped a blanket around me, and it was the first time I felt safe. Well, the next morning, I went to my girlfriend's lot, and it was closed up tight. It was closed up like we close up our lot for winter.
Yes.
Except there were flowers. The firewood was stacked. It was clear that she'd been there, but they were gone. So when I went to Pittsburgh, I called her and said, "What happened that night? Why did you guys leave? What happened?" And she said, "Can my dad and I come pick you up?" And I'm thinking, She said, "Dad will be there." And I said, "All right." I trusted her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And they took me to Denny's, and her dad sat with his back facing us. He turned around and he would nod to the things that she said. But she told me that when I left, they didn't know where I'd gone. It was like I disappeared.
Wow.
And they called her damaged goods. I was a blonde-haired, green-eyed stick of a girl, but I was a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want her. They wanted the virgin.
Oh, my.
And they told her they were coming to get me. And they raped her. They used her in a ritual, and they all sucked on her. So she had, like, sucker bites all over her. And when she was talking, she sounded like a zombie. But she said, "The reason we had to see you is that you're in danger." They'd come to their farm. They had a farm just outside of Pittsburgh, this coven, and they had terrorized the family for 2 months, just taken over the whole farm. And I don't know how that ended. That's her story.
Yes.
But I was terrified for her. I wouldn't go anywhere. People would say, "Hey, Jenny, you want to come to this party?" I was like, "No, I don't want to go to any parties."
Yeah.
And I stayed at home, and I read books. And I started babysitting for a woman who had just become a Jesus freak. And all she talked about was Jesus.
Yeah.
She talked about, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by him. And it was just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Yes.
And I said, "You have to stop it, or I'm not going to babysit for you anymore. I don't want to hear it."
Really? There was something that repelled that message.
Well, I
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, "But you're afraid." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Why are you afraid?" And I told her what happened that night. She was one of the first people I told, and she was not fazed.
Yeah.
She drew this big circle, and she said, "Imagine this is God." And I thought, "Oh, please." And then she drew this little itty angel next to it, and she said, "Here we have the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit." And she drew these 3 circles, and really down she said, "The devil is equal to Michael or Gabriel.
Right.
But a created being, it's not a fair fight."
Yeah. He's already lost.
Right.
Yes.
And I didn't believe her because I read books. I was an avid reader, and I read, The Devil's Reign, and I read all of these books about ghosts. And so I knew that when the priest came up against the demon, he got thrown against the wall and
only in the
impaled
movies
or something. Well, it just shows how there's a big lie there.
That's right.
And anyway, she said, "Go to a Bible study. Go to a Bible study with me." And I said, "If you will shut up, I will go." And when I got there, I had her baby in my arms and kicked the door shut. Anyway, I slammed my finger, my right ring finger, in the door, and it went the size of my thumb and then bigger, and the nail was black. And I said, "Take me home. I don't want to be here." She said, "No, you promised." I thought, what a jerk. And I tried to call my mom. Nothing. I couldn't get her. It wasn't the day of cell phones. And this woman named Beverly with red hair she said, "Okay, ladies, I know you've seen our guest. She's hurt her finger. Let's all pray for it." And I thought, "Oh, get me out of here. These dingbats are praying for a finger." And it was the weirdest thing. It stopped hurting in that minute.
Yeah.
And that second, and I started to push on it. I'm looking at it. The swelling had gone down. It was the normal color. didn't make sense. I thought, well, maybe I didn't hurt it as badly as I thought, but the nail was black. And he had healed my finger, and I thought, could he do that? That's amazing. Yeah. But I also didn't believe it. And that night I gave Jesus my heart.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't feel any different. But in the morning I woke up, and I understood the new creation that I was told that I would be. And it was like coming out of a dark basement.
Yes.
And seeing colors and beauty and intelligence and wonder. I was changed, and everybody that I knew I changed, but they didn't know why. And there was a woman at the Bible study that became my spiritual mother. Her name was Linda Fiorelli. She's not with us anymore, but I'm certainly a jewel in her crown. What I learned that was huge is that I'd been so frightened for so long after the event at Holiday Camplands, and I wasn't afraid anymore.
Yeah.
The fear was gone, but I learned that in fearing God, revering Him, and that the other side of the coin was joy and love and peace and all that He gives to us, where He changes us from the inside out.
Yes. Yes. That is the truth, and that is the miracle. And it happens today as it did back in the days that Jesus walked on this earth. He's still performing those same miracles. I think it's so interesting, Jennifer, that you were told to sanitize your story. There's nothing in your story that's not already in the Bible. He's done all of those things then, and He's doing them now. Was there ever a chance to talk with your friend, maybe, and share that?
I saw her when I was 25. She looked rough, and I had a baby and my husband, and we were all up at camp, and I saw her, and I ran up and I hugged her, and I said, I have to tell you about Jesus.
Yeah.
And she stepped back, she looked at me, and she said, I knew you were a goody two-shoes. Same phrase.
Oh, my.
And she said, get away from me. I don't want people to know I'm with you.
Oh, my.
And so that was the last I heard of her.
Well, we'll continue to pray for her.
I have.
Yes.
I have.
The book is called When God Happens, True Stories of Modern Day Miracles. Jennifer, where can we get it?
You can get it online at Target without shipping if you have a red card. Amazon.com, Books A Million. It's on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. And
this is one story of a whole bunch of modern day miracles that are being told.
They are amazing.
And they are amazing, and God's not done yet. He's got that gal's life to turn around still.
And the rest of my story is
right there.
It's right there.
Okay, so for the rest of the story, get the book. Jennifer Porter, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and thanks for what you do in our community.